Hi everyone, Mr. Barden here. So today we're just going to real quickly go over kind of the workspace area of Adobe Premiere. Alright, this is for my digital storytelling course that I teach. Generally, we use Adobe Premiere Pro for the video editing portion. Uh, I'll make some other kind of more detailed videos as we go along for some other options, as well as things more specific towards what exactly we need to be doing in this program. Today is just going to be a short little overview of everything that you have in this particular workspace. So Adobe Premiere is not a cheap software, but you can get it. It's a subscription service with the Creative Cloud. If you're interested in checking this out on your own, I'll put a link in the description. It's not sponsored or anything, but you can check it out. If you're a student, you get a discount. It's useful. But once you have gone in and started up Adobe, you're going to see this on the screen right here. All right, and this, you can adjust the window size to be however big you need, but basically you get everything that you've done recently listed out here, and it tells you the last time that you did all of it, the size of the file, the kind of file it is. Most of them will be Premiere Pro projects, since that's what we're working in. They also put out. I'm not going to quite call them ads, but they're basically ads for stuff you can do in the program right here. On the side, you have options to start a new project from scratch or open a project, and there's a few other things that you can work with right there. So I'm just going to start a new project, and then that goes away, and we are brought up with this window right here. And this is where we start making some of the details about the project. The first is, what do you want to name it? I'm going to call this video example right there. You can choose where to save it. You can save it wherever you want. There's a few things. The renderer, this is the part of the computer that's going to render the video and make everything going. You can pick a few different options. It looks like this one right here doesn't work anymore, so I'm not even going to recommend that. The software only one, that one takes a little longer, not quite as high quality. This metal one's the higher quality. I say takes a little longer. They both can take a little while potentially. Just depends on how big of a file you're gonna make. But the metal right here, that's the higher quality of the two. So I recommend keeping that there. Display format, you can do time code, or you can display things in frames, or if you were doing this with physical strip tape of film, you could do it in feet of film. I just do time code. It's up to you. This audio samples or milliseconds, so you can do little samples of audio or the milliseconds of time. That's up to you. Capture format, HDV, that's the only option I have, so that's the one I go with. And I just keep the same little default on the color management. Alright, so I'm just going to hit OK, and we'll move on to the next thing. OK. May take a second. So this program is fairly CPU intensive. My computer's not the best, so it's just taking a second to build up everything, make it work. Hopefully it doesn't, okay, there we go. It likes to pop up on my other monitors. So here is my workspace for right now. And we have everything right here. So there's different ways that you can arrange your workspace, and you'll probably find that no two workspaces actually look exactly the same. All right, so there's a few things to look at. The first, if you hit the home button here, that takes you back to that very first panel we saw, and that's that. There's a bunch of stuff all up in the menus that we could get into, but we'll look at that a little bit later. What's important, the very first thing, is this right down here, import media to start. So this is where you take all of your video files, off the SD card from your camera, your flash drive, or saved to your computer, and you can import them right here. You can either click and drag, or you can go through and browse and find them. I have a few saved over here. from a separate project I'm working on. If it loads, my computer is always a little slow when working with this. All right, I'm gonna purposely pull up the really short one just for here, but if I click and drag and stick that in there, it's gonna import the files. So then it's just gonna take a second. Basically, it's just finding the file so that way it can utilize it in this program. This is from a dance project I was working on with some of the dance studio people. I'm only going to work with one little video today, but once you load up everything that you want to work with here, and you can make little subfolders, and it's very useful. So any specific audio files or video or images, things like that, that all lives right here in this project folder, this little window that for me is just kind of highlighted by default. The next important thing is this one over here called the timeline. So I recommend basically always having these two, and we'll get to this one up here, open in your workflow just about at all times. But once you have all of your sources, you can then just click. Come on. It helps when your mouse is on the right screen. You can then just click and drag this into the timeline. And you'll notice that a few things have now changed. The first, we get a little kind of almost like a backup file right here. We can see the video up here. This will be where we build the video. So anything we add to it, any effects we change, the transitions from scene to scene, that all lives right here. In my case, that's again, it could be slightly different on your screen, but that is what this window up here is doing, this program window. That's where we can see it. Down here in the timeline, this is where we can see where everything lives on a larger scale. So the way this is set up is as we move across the screen right here, there is, we can see, in my case, because I did time code, we can see as the time progresses. So here we, at a minute, 29 seconds, 57 frames, here we are. That's what, everything lines up vertically. There we go. There's two parts to this, all right? The first are the video tracks, and there's 3 by default. And then there's the audio tracks, of which there's 4 by default. You can add in as many as you need. I think the biggest I've ever had is like 18 of each. So you can add in a lot of stuff. But it can be a little bit confusing to manage it, because tracks 1 and 1 are right here in the middle, and you can change how these lay out with just by dragging and adjusting them. Move things up and down however you need to adjust that. But 1 and 1 are right here. And then I'm just going to bring in the same video twice. But I'm going to put this on track 2. And it, they start spreading apart. So when you have a bunch to manage, it's a little weird, because the farther away from that line is, the higher track you go. So I'll do it one more time just to show it. Here it is on track 3. And we build that. So, I mean, if we were to play through this, it's going to, as we go, I mean, it's going to be the same thing over and over again, but it's just on a separate track. So you can layer things and have multiple videos at the same time. So if I did this, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but you can layer these all at the same time. Keep in mind that the audio is basically going to stay on the initial track that it was. And that's right there. The audio will stay synced with the video until you tell it to not. So if you wanted to get rid of the audio, there's a few ways to go about that. The easiest to do that is, let's see if it lives. Come on, mouse. Is here we are. We have the unlink, and this will unlink the audio from the video. You'll notice I still have this video selected, but the audio is no longer selected, and if I move it, the audio stays where it was. And that's that. We can go put it back. So that's one way you can do that. So it's very easy to go in and, if you put in the video, you can cut out the audio. So again, if it was unlinked, I think I relinked it. Yeah. We unlink it, and then we can just delete the audio. Now it's just a silent video. This can be useful if you have a bunch of background noises and stuff like that you don't want in your video, but you want to still work with it and add in your own sounds later. Let's see a few other things. If you select a video up here in the effect controls panel, a bunch of useful stuff pops up. The main things to look at, you can see what times the video is taking up right here. You can set the position within the video frame of the video as well as the scale. So like if I went and put this down to 50%, right? Or sorry, I need to specify where this happens. Or 50% of this. It is now shrunk down to 50%. I could play around there. Let's go to this one. Over here. And again, we're at 100. I'll put this one at 75%, but I'll also move it. I'll move it down. So let's make that. So I moved it to the left. Got my X and Y's backwards. So position. This is the X position, the horizontal, this first number, and then the vertical, the Y, is the second number. So it'll start up here at the top left corner is 0, 0. And as you increase that X value, it'll move this way. And as you increase the Y value, it'll move down. So now my very weird looking video, if you were to play it, if I go all the way back and play it, actually, let's not do that because YouTube will get mad at me for copyright things. So let's just mute this. There we are. We go all the way back to the beginning. That's what that one does. Hit play. We can see this one is still small, but it's in the middle. And then as the timeline shows up, this is just going to pop in. Should have popped in. There it is. Right there, I clicked. It was the third one. This second one here is overlapping. Let's look. There we are. So they're just overlapping. Exactly. So anyways, we can then play our video here. This is scaled down to be half resolution and even more, just so it doesn't take up a ton of memory in my computer. But you can specify how, in resolution all of this is. Alright, there's other stuff you can do. You can play with the opacity. You can utilize keyframes to automate a lot of this. It can be very useful. I won't get into all of that right this second, but you can handle all of that in this program. Up here, this kind of small panel is the tool panel, essentially. There's a few things. These are the ones. I keep this more or less in the middle of the screen just so it's easy to click on it and go to wherever I need. So again, I've got the selection tool picked right now. There's a few things, moving between tracks, ripple edits. The Razer Tool is one I use a lot, where I can go in, click a video, and essentially it's almost like using a fake razor blade to slice your tape, and now you can kind of see that little line there, and you can, boop, now I have two separate videos here and here. So that can be useful. Let's see, we got the snip tool I don't really use. Pen tool, for writing and stuff like that. I don't have any kind of pen apparatus. I don't really use it. But the other one I'll use a lot is the text tool. So if you click on that and you go over here, you can click and start typing whatever text you want to have appear on the screen. And you'll notice it pops up as this pink section right here, so it'll be on the screen for this amount of time. So I could I could move it to a different layer, I could make it be a lot longer, and all of that. There's a few options up here, so you could change a few things about it, whether it be the size, the font that you want to use, how big the font is, all of that stuff, whether it has an outline and things like that. That's what's covered. I'm covering that up you can play around with all of that, and that lives again under the graphics tab, and all of that right there. So that's a super basic overview. Notice I've got several other tabs up here as well. If I wanted to play around with some of the lighting, frequency compositions, I don't do that very often, but sometimes I'll adjust that. You can do basic audio editing and mixing in this program. I do not recommend it if you have any choice. This is not an audio editor. This is a video editor. That being said, you can still go in and do things. It just takes a long time and isn't very intuitive. If I would recommend, if you could, doing the audio editing in some other program, and maybe you could like rip the audio out of the video, do all the editing, and then reattach it all right here, and then do all of your splits and edits and all of that. Just because it's not super great. I mean, it works. It gets the job done. I've just had infinitely better results using some sort of digital audio workstation and then just bringing in the audio file. So you can do audio editing. I just don't recommend it. The graphics tab does other stuff, and each of these up here can do different combinations of things, so you can kind of go in and explore it. And again, I'll have some more in-depth videos later, but that pretty much wraps everything up. If this was our video and it was done, all you have to do, you have to click into the timeline window, otherwise it doesn't work, and I hate that. But you go in and you export media, and then you get the little pinwheel before this window pops up, right over here. And what this will have is you can see, you can do some scaling. You can change, if I didn't want to do the whole thing, I could, do part of it, but you pretty much always want to do the whole thing. There's the formatting, which I'll have a whole video about exporting these in a second, but you can set your formatting, which is essentially the file extension, so .mov, MP4, stuff like that. As we go from there, you can see a summary of all the various settings right here, and then you can adjust the settings down below. So again, you can play around with settings for generating the effects, the video settings, so things like the resolution, frame rate, stuff like that. For playing around with sizes, playing with some of this, the encoding and the bitrate stuff, that can greatly affect the size. You'll notice, down here it's 49 megabytes, but if I pull it up, we got a half a gigabyte almost. It can get even more doing other things. Alright, I'm just messing around at this point. With that, we have some more keyframe options, and if it's VR, you can do some VR stuff. For the audio, again, you can change some of the formattings and the various rates, and all of that. You can do all that there. A few other settings I don't really get into that much, and you won't need to for the classes I teach. But there's a few things there. You can set up some publishing, so you could send your video directly to Creative Cloud for your account to use, or stock, so you and other people could use it, and other things you can publish directly to your Facebook, FTP, Twitter, various social media and things like that. So if I wanted to, I could just directly export my things right to YouTube, and all that. And that's pretty much it. There's a few more tick box settings, but when you're done, you just hit export, and then it shows up. One thing I didn't mention, to change the name, you just click up here, and then you get the little spinny pinwheel of death as it thinks about it, because my computer is not the best. And then this pops up, so you can change where you save it, and the format. You can't really change the format, because that's what you change up here. But where you save it and what you name it. So you can change it to be whatever you want. You hit export, and then it starts doing all of this. Again, the bigger your project, the more files it has, and the bigger settings, the longer this will take. I've had some projects take several hours to completely compile. I've since gotten better with my settings, because I don't do a ton of super crazy stuff. But again, it can take a very long time to compile and have very large file sizes if you don't format everything how you want and to optimize that. So that's going to be it. I'm not going to sit here and wait for the whole thing. I'm going to just wrap out the video now. So like always, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the comments and do all the other stuff. If you like it, give it a like, subscribe, all the YouTube things. And that'll be it for me. So I'll see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.